Miami Heat, 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 Miami Heat. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Miami Heat Beat podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, we got a pretty packed house today for our part two of our two-part season previewing the over 25 players. With me today, we got Franky G, co-host of Stream Beat.
What it do? Go Canes.
Go Miami Hurricanes indeed. We got Saucy Takes, Coach Lou.
Oh, what it do? Fuck FSU.
Oh.
Well,
Wait, that's what we doing?
language.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just reading
Always.
Franky's thing.
Always.
Okay.
That last boy is the GOAT. Reality check master, Tiffany Meeks.
Hey guys, I don't watch college football, but what I will say is, go Bears! We back, baby! We back!
Are they good?
We back!
I don't know. My team's bad. I haven't watched football. It's football's canceled.
Who's your team?
The Jags. We're awful.
We don't even.
Yeah, no, we don't even. Yeah, we had our fun. We had our run. But you know who's not gonna be ass? The Miami Heat. Well, that's up for debate. I don't think they're gonna be bad, but who knows? That's what we're here to preview today. Today we're doing over 25. Yesterday we did all the players that were under 25 years old. Today we're doing over 25 years old. So younglings versus vets, a little bit of an earlier show. If you're watching live on twitch.tv/Miami Heat Beat, we appreciate all the audience that watches live, as well as anybody who catches us on YouTube or on the pod feed. You know that we all love you the same. If you can join a show live, 100%, you guys should do that. So, folks, we got a lot to get into today. And let's start right at the top. Let's go by, the most important guy on the team, arguably, the guy who's in his future with the team is in question. And that there was a report today by Anthony Chang saying that, Jimmy Butler is not expected to agree to a contract extension with the team, even if the Heat put forward an offer. It's almost assumed that he will forego his player option for the 2025-26 campaign and enter free agency in the summer of 2025. Not that that's anything, I guess, groundbreaking, but I think Anthony reporting, Tiff, that he won't even accept a contract that's thrown. I think it's interesting. I think some of that's gamesmanship by him knowing the Heat won't do that, and I think it puts public pressure. But I certainly think it's interesting news to come out.
Is it?
I just, news is news, and I think that being said, you're not wrong. She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
It's funny because neither of you are wrong, but
Right.
that's the world we're in.
Right. It's like, you know what, G? I'll be honest. I don't know what the guys think. I'm nonplussed about this. Like, I don't give a shit. I think
you're not wrong.
Yeah, I think we can't spend this season worrying about what Jimmy's going to do, what the Heat are going to do in terms of contract, right? Like, he's with the Heat until he's not with the Heat, right? So I just feel like the speculation and all the things, I feel like they could be getting in the way of what could be an interesting season for the team. What could be the growth of Bam? What could be the surprising play of some of the young guys? I just feel like it's all just way too much. My whole thing is, as of Wednesday, Jimmy Butler is with the Heat. So
until further notice,
y'all, I think sometimes the speculation just has to just stay under the carpet, because it's like, it's not going to change anything. Okay, let's just say he does accept it. Okay, great. We got another 2-3 years of Jimmy. Like, none of this matters if he accepts it and the team still looks the same, right? So it's still the same team. So I just, right. So I kind of try to ignore those rumors, because no matter what happens, as long as his name is on the back of the Heat jersey, he's a Heat player. If they move Jimmy on, then they move Jimmy on, and that'll be a whole nother thing for a whole nother day. I'm just more interested in what we got going and what we're gonna look like moving forward.
I think that, and Frankie, I mean, you'll remember this well. I don't want to do what we did with LeBron in 2014. The will he, won't he, all season long. That's exhausting. It's honestly somebody who like was doing the pod back then. Not very fun to cover. And ironically, we did it for James Johnson as well. So
So it doesn't matter. It's cheap. It's cheap.
That's very different tiers, right there.
Very different. Frankie, do you remember? You weren't on the pod, but I know you used to listen. The shows of like, are they gonna keep James Johnson or is he gonna walk?
I was like, why do you guys want this guy?
Dude, it was every fucking week. And I remember I was at a bar with Alf one day and he goes, I don't want to talk about James Johnson anymore.
Sounds about right.
But Frankie, let's talk about Jim on the court. Because I think last season we talked a lot about kind of the things that went wrong. I think his finishing numbers under 60% at the rim is just bad. 42% from mid-range, not very good. His three-point shooting, really good last year at almost 42%. His defense slipped. His EPM, which is my favorite defensive metric, under 1. It's still positive, but it's under 1 for the first time pretty much since 2015 when he was in Chicago at 25 years old. His offense has slipped in a lot of ways. At least he's shooting the ball. Doesn't get to the free throw line as much. Frankie, he needs to find some of that lift finishing. I think that's the most important thing. This offense needs his free throws. He's the only guy on the team that can reliably get to the line, can get to the basket at will, can bust switches. He is, I think, the most critical part of the offense. And I think there's a huge question mark on, like, is he on the athletic decline that he can't maybe summon some of the physicality he needs?
I think we definitely saw some slippage there. One thing I think you guys talked a lot about guys that are going to benefit from the 5-out and the spacing. I think he's definitely one of them. The high lows, the inside out part of his game. We've seen for years how great he is with the Kelly Olynyk, with a Kevin Love, with a bigs that can space the floor, even Deadman at times. The guys who can pop and make that read, and he's great at utilizing that space, taking advantage, and getting to the line in that ways. And his athleticism isn't predicated on his speed or his verticality. It's his strength, and that hasn't really gone away. Like, I trust him a little bit less one-on-one defensively? Yeah, but he's still smart. He's still got great hands, and he'll find a way to contribute and be a plus on that end. Do I think it'll be that same, like it's gonna keep going up or stay the same? Probably not, but as long as it doesn't take too steep of a drop and decline on that end, he should still contribute. I'm really looking forward to, like, these guys, like, all take like in the preseason, we kind of saw each of these guys take turns scoring, and I'm really curious if they're all going to be satisfied like that.
Yeah, Lou, do you want to piggyback on what Frankie said?
Yeah, as far as like Jimmy and like the decline, I think we saw it last year. He physically wasn't the same player. Just in terms of like his frequency getting to the rim, it wasn't as good as it used to be. It was the lowest since he's been here. And honestly, the lowest since his Minnesota days back, when he was a better 3-point shooter. So last year, even though his 3-point shooting went up, he still settled for too many middies, much like the guys we talked about on, some of the guys we talked about yesterday, some of the guys we're going to get into today. It's going to be a pretty like common theme sometimes for some of these guys, like too much settling for Jimmy at the midi. He took 44% of his shots were midi and 41% were at the rim. Those numbers aren't too good. I'd like to see 50% at the rim, 45-ish% at the rim. I don't know. In terms of like,
he's not even finishing at the rim. And so like normally I'm like, well, like, take the shots you're good at, but he wasn't good at either last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so but still his finishing at the rim was 64%, which is what wasn't good. It was bad.
No, last year was per dunks and threes, and I know we're using different things.
Yeah.
I know they quantify that differently. Is at 59%.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah.
When I have 64%, which I guess I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Regardless, his mid-range
that's still bad.
Was bad. It was 43.
64% still bad. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was. Yeah, it's very bad. So it's just little tweaks of that to make Jimmy's game better. He's still elite at drawing fouls, getting to the line. So in that area, he can definitely help alleviate some of the tough stretches that are inevitably going to come throughout the course of the 82 game season. But I think the most important thing with Jimmy Butler is we can say this and we can say that. The most important thing is he has to play and he has to be engaged. Like with Jimmy, it comes to a point where you throw stats out the window and you just need to see him on the floor and contributing and giving his all and his body being able to withstand that for 65, 70 games. I don't even want 75.
65 is not enough. Yeah.
I want, he hasn't given us 65. So I want at least 65. The most
Literally
was 64. So
has not given us 65. 64 was the most.
I think you're gonna get more than last season. So
Buddy wants his check.
Well, I don't think we're not talking about money. I just think health-wise, he's coming into this season healthier than he did last year. So that's the reason why, as of now, I'm saying you'll get more games than you got last year. But I think the other thing is it's very interesting because Lou spoke about him being engaged. And one of the things we really, when we go through this rotation of guys that we got to be honest about is, for stretches, Jimmy's going to have the ball to be engaged. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind when we talk about Jimmy. We saw a couple of games this preseason where he played a lot of off ball. What was it, Franky? We talked about one game he had 8 shots.
Yeah, his game log. He only shot more than 6 shots one time this preseason.
Well, and that was the game in which he had the ball in his hands a lot more.
Yeah, the Hawks game.
Right. So I think they have to find a way to have balance, whereas Jimmy gets his touches, but when he doesn't, there's going to have to be schemes whereas he's doing something else where he's still contributing, where it doesn't look like he's just parked in the corner. But also if he's parked in the corner, then you got to figure out how to get him the ball, because I think the 3-point shot I think it's wavered with health, but I trust him as a reliable 3-point shooter, but not when the game is on the line. But I trust him as a reliable 3-point shooter.
It looks mechanically good. And Tiff, I 100% agree with you. And I think the only time I even think that him in the corner is not the worst thing in the world, because I think he can attack a closeout. I think if it's late clock, you don't want him in the corner because then Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think he has to be active. He has to do other things. There's a lot of guys on this team that could do stuff with the ball. And as we said in preseason, he was not that featured in the offense, which I think is good. I think with this new 5-out system, he's one of the 5-out. He could play. He could either handle or not. So, and I think your point about health is spot on. I mean, not only was it the ankle kind of coming into last season and all the other stuff. I mean, we've joked a lot. He broke his ass every year, seemingly. His wrist issues were a problem early here. Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully, longer off season, really extended break from no postseason for Butler. So hopefully he can kind of come into the season healthy, as we've all said, and those finishing numbers. And I'm going to watch those like a hawk. He's never been this elite finisher at the rim, but if that number stays sub 60 on declines, I think that's a bad sign. And I think we haven't talked about his defense too much, but I just want to close on that and we'll move on to Bam. I think Bam is their most important defender. I think his defense is so impactful that I think it's in the conversation with Bam. His help at the nail, as we talked about, as just a helper, he's probably like he's probably one of the best at his position in the league. I compared him when people throw passes around prime Jimmy Butler on defense. He was like Kawhi on ball during the prime Kawhi years. They need to get out and run. They forced a lot of turnovers in the preseason. They're going to need to juice their offense. Their offense is not going to magically be good because they play 5-out with a bunch of okay shooters. They need to do a lot of things to like maximize and optimize what they have. And getting them into the open floor is going to be one of them. And I hate to depend on steals, Tiff, but they need to find it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I have a question. If anybody can pull up as a team, What did we finish at the rim as a team last year?
Oh, I have. I love that you asked that. One of the worst marks in the league. So, uh, I'll get that for you right now. But it was really bad. I believe they were. Let's see, offensive shooting by percentage, they were 25th or 26th.
And I know we got there the second least amount of times, I believe. Yeah, shooting frequency at the rim last year, we were the third worst, only behind Dallas and Golden State. And in terms of finishing at the rim last year, this is per Cleaning the Glass, we were 25th.
Yeah.
So bad and worse. As you're
Right.
the answer to both of those questions.
Right. Because I just also, I also know when you look at like the construction of this team, there's going to be a lot of nights they're going to load up on Jimmy. Like it's not about physically getting there. It's that he's got to be smart with the ball and not try to force his way there. So it's the look around and say, okay, if he's not getting there because of scheme, who else can get there and finish?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a big deal.
Yep.
And I think that kind of brings us really nicely to our next guy, Bam. Because all the responsibility that Jimmy has on offense, I mean, what age is Jimmy going into? He's what age?
He's 35. 30? He just
Yeah.
turned 35.
He's in his age 35 season. I think depending on him for everything is kind of, I think, a fool's errand when you have a 26-year-old who is entering the prime of his career. Franky, the most motion he's ever had going into a season. He's in the commercials. He's
Drew's in commercials?
Shut your filthy mouth.
You said 26, so I thought you were talking about.
You haven't seen the Drew Smith Skims commercials?
Oh God, don't show them to me, please.
Shout out to the new sponsor, Skims. They sent me product. It's quite nice.
I don't want to see you in Skims either.
Wait for the ad read.
BM, as he's known.
Tiff's laughing. They're actually our sponsor now.
I'm telling you, they're high quality.
They're actually
product.
the sponsor. There's a read we're gonna do later. Shout out to
do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. BM, yeah, he's had a tremendous offseason, gold medal, coming into his own, finally pretty much outwardly admitting that he's in a relationship with the best player in the WNBA. But showing his development, probably the most impactful, important development of his game that he's shown at any point has been the 3-point shot. We've seen his growth and leap from the guy who can only be a catch and dunk guy to a guy who can run some high post offense and DHOs through. But he's had a lot of growth, and I'm really interested in seeing how much of it translates, because a lot of talk was about it during the Olympics and stuff, and most of it disappeared as soon as the games got tight. Mm-hmm. He took 9 threes in the whole Olympics, 9 of them in the games that didn't count the exhibition games, and then 9 of them in the regular ones, and it was like he made like one of them when the actual games in like the gold medal matches and stuff. So this is going to be an important development. Will he shy away from it? How is he going to attack the closeouts? We've seen them defend it. When they close out short, is he going to continue to take them and be aggressive with them? Does he miss one? Is he going to take the next one? Is he going to hesitate? Those are all questions we're going to have answered this season, and I think it's important that we're prepared for him to have ebbs and flows with this.
Franky, I mean, the solution's pretty obvious. I mean, Dion Waiters, shooting coach.
We've got the man with the golden arm already. We don't need Philly cheese anymore.
Champ cheese to you.
Oh God, no.
Champ cheese is nasty.
Chump cheese.
Oh, whoa.
I think it's really cool with Bam, like his development as a player. He's really progressed throughout his years, at least like in responsibilities. Maybe all the things were always there in his player and development per se, might not be as renowned as like even like Nico and some of the guys that we've had around, but I do think that he perfects some of the things that he does to a certain extent. Now I'm curious to see where the 3-point shooting goes because I'm a stat freak and I went and I did some digging, G, because I thought it was time. And people always ask, all right, what does a true spacing 5 look like in today's NBA? So I went and I had to define that. Bam last year, for reference, he took 0.6 threes per 36 minutes. That's not a spacer. That's nothing. So I looked into it. Only 23 big men took over 4 threes per 36. I think that's what qualifies a spacer.
Do you know the 4?
No, 23 of them.
23 players.
23
4
attempts.
4 attempts per. The most was Kevin Love at 9 point. Yeah. The most was Kevin Love at 9.5, and the least was Zach Collins at 4.3. That at least played 500 minutes. Now, in my mind, Zach Collins is not a floor spacing big, so 4.3 isn't good enough for Bam Adebayo to be considered a floor spacing 5. So then that brings me to the next tier of guys, and I think that tier is the Chet, the Horford, the Brook Lopez. If he can get into that, which means 5 to 6 threes, I think that's going to be the improvement. If he can convert those on like a 35-ish%, 34, even God willingly 39%, 40%, which I don't expect.
I mean,
but if he could
be 38, why can't he do what Embiid does?
But Embiid doesn't shoot as much as he does. Embiid is also not a floor spacing 5. He can shoot them. I think that's going to be the difference. I think Bam has shown that he can shoot.
I don't think that he has to be that this season, though. I think that what you're talking about is a long-term development. I think that the steady, I don't know. You just don't never do that and then go from your first season that you're allowed to shoot them to like all of a sudden jacking up 6 a game without like a change in the coaching staff or anything. I mean, what was he at last year? It was
like Channing Frye was like the only guy to do that.
Yeah,
so,
he's 0.6 like last year. Like, can we get to 2?
I think it needs to be way higher than 2. And for reference, there's 15 bigs who have taken over like a 3-point over 3 more threes from one year to the next. The biggest difference obviously being Brook Lopez, Maurice Bates, and Channing Frye. Those are the top 3. But if Bam can do this, like, yes, I get the point. Like, you want this to be a long-term thing, but like Tiff said, Jimmy's on the team this year. We're talking about championship. That's what they're talking about, is this year. We're not talking about 2-3 years down the line. Jimmy might not be here 2-3 years down the line. We're worried about now. We need him to unlock this area of his game in order for other players to benefit mostly, and for him to benefit mostly too, because with this whole 5-out spacing thing, I'm curious to see how much like attention they pay to him.
Lou,
is my
in the preseason, he's at 3. I mean, Tiff, 3 at 39%. I don't think we gotta mess with that formula.
Hold on, but that's
not per 36.
That's
so,
in like half the games.
No, it's not per 36. It's what's actually happening.
No, but he played like 24 minutes. Like,
yeah, so you're proving my point. Game. Yeah, you're proving my point. Thank you.
He played 20 minutes.
20 minutes, 3. We're talking 5, 6.
I don't think he needs to shoot more than that. I think
it's fine. Perfect what he's shooting at, but it can't be.
That is fine. Yeah.
It can't be 2 for the whole game. It needs to be
if he ends
5-ish.
the season at 2. If you tell me right now, do you take 2? I take 2. Just because I think that kind of jump. Now, I mean,
it doesn't do enough for us.
Tiff, I want your thoughts on this because I think this is.
Hold on, G, real quick, because he only took 16, 21, 30. He took 30 shots and 13 of them were threes in the preseason.
That's gonna go down. I mean
I think that's a good balance though. Like that's a good balance. If he's taking open threes, trailer threes, pick and pop threes, those are all good threes.
I agree.
And I'm not and if they're playing at an up tempo pace, like the shot attempts are gonna they have to play up tempo to get all 4 of these guys their shot attempts that they want.
Bingo.
And he's got to shoot those in the flow, otherwise it's not going to work.
Ms. Meeks?
No, go ahead, G. You said you had something
for you.
Me.
Yeah, no, yeah. I want your I want your take.
I think
on the volume here.
I think I honestly don't think he'll get to 6 a game.
I don't think so.
No, I think that's high. My
I don't
goal
think
is 4.
I don't even know if here's the thing. I don't even know if he's averaging 4 a game because he's so dependent on other people.
I'm with you, Tiff.
And to me, and that's the biggest thing because it shifts from preseason to regular season. Preseason is cute. We're having fun. We're popping the ball around, all the things. I'm trying to do my role. We trying to win. But like when the games are really played, his game is so highly dependent on the guards that like we may see a game where he doesn't get any because they got to either catch him wide open, pick and pop, like you said, or the trailer 3, which I've been begging for 2 seasons. Like those are things that are so heavily guard dependent. And let's be realistic. We got ball handlers. We don't have guys that force and make these other plays for other guys.
Tiff, just say it for real. They got ball handlers, not playmakers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's so heavily dependent on these other guys that like you might see a game where I think Bam might shoot 5. And then you might see 3 straight games where he shoots 1.
Yep.
But here's my question. If we see 5 straight games where he shoots 1, where on the floor is the offense coming from for him?
That has to be off dives to the basket. That has to be as a roll man. That has to be. I got to be honest. I'm kind of giving up the idea of him just operating face up at the elbow and kind of that mid block. I just don't think he does it enough at volume, and it just doesn't seem like it's a huge priority in their offensive kit anymore. They sometimes even rather post him up, which I'm not a super big fan of, but I just think it honestly, ideally, I would like him to do what Tiff said, like kind of take those pull-up threes, those trailer threes, what Franky said, off pick and pop, off those actions, and to be a dive man, play out of the short roll. I think his passing is something that they miss. And the way that you get that back by not just stalling your offense with him at the elbow is you play him in the short roll. You let him play make off the guys that are 5 out. Jimmy in the corner. You know, if they start their offense early like they should, now Jimmy catches the ball, that closeout guy, if Jimmy can attack that closeout, and if Jimmy attacks that closeout and beats his man, anybody who comes to help, Bam's already under the basket because he rolled there. You know, and you have built-in plays, and then you have Duncan. So there's a lot that they can do with that, and I just it's important.
And you mentioned something that I miss. I miss Bam having the ball more as a playmaker.
Yeah, I can see why they don't do it because I think it got predictable, but I would like to see them run bench units with that.
Yep.
It did, but it helped where, you know, it didn't really stall out with Bam. You know, he wasn't, because Bam's not the ball handler that other guys are. So we didn't have to worry about Bam dribbling for 10 seconds. It was very much, I'm trying to make a play.
It was Duncan's fault for not being able to beat his man off a switch. like let's be real. That stopped getting cute when teams were like, well, Mr. Robinson. And I think Duncan now has the game to do that. So just interesting. I think that Bam is I think a lot of their success is gonna orbit how much of a step Bam's gonna take and how much Jimmy can fight off a decline. Because he's 34 years old as well. The ascent is over, I think. I think now it's, can he maintain a relative level and turn it on when it isn't? And can Bam hopefully, I mean, Bam should, guys, I want to quick around the room here. Bam has to be their best player next season, right? Franky?
Yes. Oh, Franky, sorry.
No, I think Jimmy still has to be the best.
Okay. Lou, you said yes. Tiff?
Yes.
I think Bam has to be their most consistent player, but Jimmy has to be their best player.
Right.
I'll preface this with, are we talking championship?
I'm talking regular season.
Jimmy.
I'm talking regular season.
Regular season. I honestly think for the regular season, if you talk Bam, because this is where I'm kind of, I don't care about numbers, but I really need Bam at about 25, 9, and 5.
I mean, Shaq would love it.
Like if you, like to me, if he lived in that house, 25, even 10, if you can consistently give me 10 boards, 5 assists, 25 points, he's your best player because you have those 3 things working.
He would be
plus,
an MVP candidate with those.
Well, but listen, if you told me he added a 3, if you told me he's rim running, he's getting putbacks and all these things, like those are the things that lead to the easy baskets. The rim running, the putbacks, the crashing the boards, like all that's easy baskets. So if he's doing that and he's giving you stellar defense, he's the best player on the team. I think if you make it to the postseason, that's Jimmy.
Yep.
So,
But go ahead, G.
no, you finish.
But I'm saying, I think that was my expectation going into the season, that Bam needs to be the best player during the regular season, whereas he's the 1A during the regular season. Jimmy's the 1A.5. So you're getting a lot of Jimmy, but you're not getting enough. You're not getting so much Jimmy that you're just running him into the ground.
Yep.
So Bam last season finished with 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. So he's not too far off. I think.
Right.
I think the assists can, if he can he get one more a game? And I actually think if he gets to 22, 23 and those numbers, I'm very happy. I think that's a huge success given their limitations. So let's move on to Terry, Terry Rozier, who I think it's his first training camp with the team. So I think that's important. And I think that, listen, I know I can only speak for myself. I've been really harsh on him because I didn't like the trade very much. Not for what you guys may think, not because they traded my beloved Kyle Lowry. It's because they traded the pick that I think would have really been able to get them a real difference maker. I think that he has some redundancy with Hero. I think he's a little bit different in that I think he's a little bit more pass first than Tyler, but not too much. I think they have a lot of kind of similarities. I think they both have question marks on defense, and I think playing them together is a little bit dubious. Kind of going into this season, Tiff, I want to start with you because I know we've talked a lot about him, in private. He's a guy that I think he can make or break their offense if he has a career year. I just have concerns. I just think he's not a good finisher at the rim. He was an okay shooter last year, and he's had kind of a couple rough years. He's a guy that can score. I don't know how much impact he provides you on the floor, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm being tough.
Yeah, I think I think where we definitely agree is that the finishing at the rim. This team is like in desperate need
Every dude
of
that
a
we
guard,
mentioned.
right? Of a guard that can like get downhill and like finish strong at the rim. So I worry about that because even, I think even joining the team mid-season, you getting downhill has nothing to do with running plays. Like that's just you getting off, getting there, getting the ball and getting there. So that's got nothing with joining the team. His shot selection bothers me from time to time because he'll come down, he'll make a great play, but then he'll come down and then it's a shot where you don't need it. And I agree there is some redundancy with Tyler, but where I like him is that if he plays with that quick but don't hurry mode, he could be really good in the offense. But I just find that he gets sped up a lot. And when he gets sped up, you got to remember, like, Jimmy's not running races with him up and down. So you got to be very, I think we have to be like opportunistic when we run because everybody's not doing the running with the Heat. We know that. Everybody's not getting up and down. I don't know. Like, I don't really know. I don't know what to make of the offense with the backcourt because someone has to be passed first. And I don't know if that's a conversation that's been had yet, but the reality is that Jimmy and Bam, they got to get their shots. And somebody said earlier that, everybody's got to get their shots. There is no everybody getting their shots. If Jimmy and Bam don't eat, they don't win. So I would love for Terry to be more pass first, especially with that early offense, with those passes to Bam, with those lobs and all. I would love to see that, but I just I don't know. I don't know how it happens.
Frankie, I think Tiff hit the nail on the head. I think that he needs to leverage his speed and his kind of scoring ability into making plays and opening those lanes. Because I think in terms of guard passing, I think he, ironically, Duncan are probably the two most talented passers. Well, I don't know if I call Duncan talented, but he's certainly pretty good at it at this point. Shout out to my boy. But you know, they need that zip, as Tiff said. They need that finishing, which he's not providing, but I think he does get to the get to the rim. He does have the speed. He does have the first step. He does have the deceleration. He does have that little that little almost that Jalen Brunson kind of like herky jerky, like kind of get you off balance type move to get to the basket. He has moves. Just gotta finish, and he has to play make off that when defenders jump.
Yeah, he has some wiggle to his game for sure, and some slitheriness. My concerns is the redundancy with Tyler is an issue because they are different types of players. Like Terry is a little bit more of a point guard. Part of that is the experience of leading his own team with Charlotte for so long. But he's the only one of the big four, whatever they want to call them. That
the what?
Motherfuck the big three. It's just big two.
Whatever they want to call them, the best backcourt duo in the league, as Tyler says. He said what? Yeah, Tyler says they were the best. Why?
Why do you give them ammo? Is there not media training? You know what Mark Jackson said? This is the best back shooting court ever. At least those motherfuckers backed it up.
Maybe they back it up, man. But like I saw Tyler, like even though Tyler's shooting numbers weren't great, like he shot 31% from three for the preseason. Like I thought his profile was great. I thought everything about Tyler's shot selection was great. Like maybe I don't know how many shots he took, but I couldn't remember many shots where I was like, damn it, why didn't you take that? Why'd you take that shot? Whereas Terry, I'm like, the catch and shoot is there and he's hesitating. He's not ready for it. I told Tiff the ball's looking at him like the Green Goblin mask, and it's like step back and dribble. And he's just not in that way. And their volume for both of them was so high in the preseason that's a concern for me that I'm looking forward to in when the regular season starts, because you could get like both of their games aren't consistent enough in the ways that matters, that really impact defenses. They're not getting to the rim enough. They're not getting to the line. And you can survive with one of them being a high volume of your offense, but two of them both starting together, I don't know if I've seen that before and produce a good offense at the same time. So I'm very curious as how Terry finds his way. The finishing numbers, like he can get to a one-on-one at the rim. Like he's not blowing by guys. He's not bumping guys off spots like a Brunson using his physicality and touch. But he can do a lot better, man. Some of his shit. He has the most rim outs on layups that I've ever fucking seen. It's crazy. I don't know what it is that he does. Puts way too much spin on it or whatever he's doing to it. But he rims out so many little bunnies there. And I think he's the X factor on how this works.
Luke?
I agree with the whole Terry situation. Like him and Tyler just do so many of the same things that
Terry situation.
Yeah, that it is very.
Did you get the joke?
Yeah, Scary Terry.
No, I was making fun of karate. Come on, get with the time.
Oh,
dude.
my bad.
He looked at me like I was crazy. Tiff laughed, Frankie laughed. I was like, does he know? Continue.
Look, man, I apologize. But no, I think just in general, like Rozier, just what do we expect from him? I need him to cut out all these like some of his decision making and like his 1v1 situations, and even like his pick and roll stuff really goes nowhere sometimes. I'd like him to be more decisive. Frankie brought up a good point, like with the catch and shoot stuff, particularly even from the corners, like he just hesitates at will. Last year he shot horrible on catch and shoot. That needs to improve. He's typically not been that bad. He shot 34% on catch and shoot threes. That's not good enough for him. Like, that's not good enough for a guard, in my opinion, considering his hesitancy there. Those two things just can't be together. His rim finishing is obviously a fucking concern, to say it lightly. His inability to get there last year, at least on the Heat, was probably more indicative of like the 5-out spacing than it was, because at Charlotte he was really good getting to the rim, surprisingly, compared to when he got here. Like, that decrease that needs to come back up. Like, just in general, less TOs, and we haven't even touched on him defensively. He needs to fight. I thought he did a great job of that in the preseason. I will say, him and Tyler, both of them, they deserve credit for the way they defended in the preseason. However, like Tiff said, when shit hits the fan, it's just a preseason at the end of the day. Like, when it comes down to it, can they continue to do that? And even when the shots aren't falling, how can Terry Rozier impact the basketball game? That's going to remain my biggest question mark, my biggest concern. If he's not scoring, he's snoring, and I need him to be wide awake, man.
If he's not scoring, he's snoring. That's a fucking tagline. That's how you.
Yeah, that's the Kendrick Nunn special.
Goddamn, do it. Frankie, were you gonna add something to that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You can't follow that.
I mean, you can. That was
pass the ball. Next guy, Duncan.
Yeah, man, Terry. I think he needs to. They need something. They need something out of that spot, and he's there. I think one of the clearest ways they can get production they didn't have, and I know that Lowry wasn't this kind of scorer and didn't have that offensive output that they needed, and I think he's a guy that if he can get that shot going, if he can shoot the ball well enough, as we said, and kind of finish at a decent. He's never been a good finisher. I don't think he's ever finished above league. Yeah, he's never finished above league average. A lot. He was 1 year in the 4th percentile. In finishing really bad. So shout out to Terry.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can kind of get it together.
I'm hoping the spacing helps him with that, but
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think he smokes a lot of wide open layups, and I do think, as Steph said, he rushes himself. He's in a little bit of a hurry. So let's talk about the next guy, Duncan Robinson. And I think that I don't have much to say about Duncan. I think, honestly, any improvement at this point from Duncan is just
Extra.
extra.
Right.
I mean, he's 29. I mean, he's gotten a lot better. He's not young, but I mean, this is kind of when you realize who you are as a player. 39% from almost 40% from three, pretty much rounding up. A decent mid-range shooter. It's a decent, doesn't take a lot. Finishing good. One of the few guys on the team who's a good finisher, and was doing more of it. A great free throw shooter. I think he and Tyler are some of the best free throw shooters in the league. And I mean, just an encore performance.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
Tiff? I mean, no, it's just him.
It's not. Listen, I'll just say this. We already know what he could do. And we feel like I think he'll be an uptick better, honestly. Not great, but just a little uptick. But even with all that being said, I have no worries or anything about him. The only thing that I worry about is situational as to what his minutes will look like. That's it. Like, I have nothing else. Like, are we going to have days where we just don't see Duncan? Like, that's what I'm really like.
I actually don't. I think that he is so firmly in the rotation. I think he's so important. He's their best shooter, and I don't think that's a conversation. I think he is one of their best ball handlers, and one of their best passers. And really, there's a lot of guys on this team who aren't good defenders. So if that's why he's not getting on the court, something's wrong.
Yep.
I don't know. That's my only concern. Like, what is his minutes look like? Other than that, I don't.
Problem.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about with Duncan.
I think he'll be fine in terms of the minute department. Like, if there's two guys on this bench unit that I'm like, they're the co-6 men, I guess we'll call it. It's him and Jaime, and like at the order, like the order of importance between those two shifts game to game. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. I have one concern, and it's unfortunate. It's how is his back going to hold up, and that's just something I don't know. That's something we don't know.
Right.
But if his back holds up and he gives you 85, 90% of what he gave you last year, you're fucking happy as fuck, man. Because he was literally
That's it.
he was the engine to the he was trying to save everybody, man. Like please come with me, hop on the Duncan train. Because the other train, that shit was off the tracks. That shit wasn't working. No oil, tires bad. Like it was bad, man. The whole offense sucked. But when he was on the floor, he made it palatable. And that's the best thing we can say about Duncan. He's literally a fucking like an analytic darling. Just Duncan, please be Duncan and stay healthy. Like nothing else should be said.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have a player like that I think we feel like, barring health, we know what we're going to get from a guy, which I think is, I mean, just a quick shout out to him and the kind of strides he's made in his career, that we can just say that, because, I mean, we're not far removed from, he lost his spot. He was playing 60 minutes a game, only played 42 games, started one in 2022, 2023, and averaged 6.4 points per game and was shooting 33% from three. To have the bounce back that he did, adding everything in his game, is just remarkable. And I just think that, and played 68 games, which is more than a lot of guys on the team. Just remarkable from a guy that, I mean, has been through a lot in terms of his NBA journey. And I just think that should be really commended for kind of finding his way. And I think we never, and we talked about this with Tyler Tiff. You know, he and Tyler, I've never questioned their effort on the floor. We can question other things about them, but it's not effort. And I just think that gets you a long way with this organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Kevin Love.
I mean,
Papa.
Yeah.
I mean, what you gonna say about Zaddy? Like you just gotta let Zaddy cook. You just gotta let Zaddy cook.
Tiff, I want to actually get your thoughts on something about him, because I think this is kind of
that he's sexy. What?
Yeah, he's a very attractive man.
Yes.
That you were not on for yesterday's preview. We were talking about Khalil Ware. Is there a world where you see Khalil winning a spot from Kevin Love, or do you just think Kevin is just so important to like what the bench does that a rookie might not be able to kind of take that from Zaddy?
Let me tell you, and this for everybody on the bench. Until proven otherwise, Kevin Love is the best shooter on the bench, besides Duncan. Like we don't count Duncan, but until proven otherwise, Kevin Love is the best shooter on the bench other than Duncan, right? So that's number one. Number
also
two,
the best finisher on the team.
I was about to say, I feel like exactly.
Yeah.
So while Ware might get some spot minutes, the reality is he's still a rookie. So even during the preseason, he didn't get as many minutes as I thought he was going to get. He didn't play over Kevin Love. So I think that's the telltale sign that like he's not there yet. So barring something dramatic happening, he's not taking 15 minutes away from Kevin Love a night. That's not happening. And am I the only person who thinks they're trying to win? If you're trying to win, he shouldn't be. He's not stealing minutes over Kevin Love. They're trying to win. I don't care if he gets some spot minutes, but like the reality is, if he's playing next to Bam, how are we making that work? Who's outside shooting? You can't have both of them clogging the paint, then Jimmy crossing over in front of them. Like none of this works.
You got to hope for the Bam leap I was talking about. If that's
right,
the case.
but it's okay to also say that this guy may not be ready. Like I feel like people are so hesitant to just want to anoint him. This is the guy. We have no idea.
I see the smile creeping on Lou's face.
Hey, no, man. I'm letting the reality check master do her shit. Man.
Right. Like I'm riding with Kevin Love until Kevin Love can't ride no more. Like this is what we doing. Like there are going to be matchups where Kevin Love can't play. But you know what's going to happen when Kevin Love can't play? We going small. That's
with
it.
The shooting big now.
With the
we're going Nico at the 5.
There you go. So like there are so many other ways that they can make it work without having to put the young man in a position that he's not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
Franky, Kevin Love plus Jimmy Butler has wreaked havoc pretty much since he got here. I think that with this new, even, I think that was one of the only lineups that they did go truly 5-out with Jimmy and K-Love. I think that that's going to continue to be an important part of the bench units. I think when Bam sits, Kevin comes in and Jimmy and him kind of run the show with some shooting. I don't see that changing. Do you?
I don't. I think that's a key part of letting Jimmy get some offense and get himself going with Kevin. I think Kevin's passing game is one of the most underrated parts as well. He's probably the best passer off the bench too. You guys forgot that. Rebounder, like he's got a lot of things for him. High screen setting, high IQ. He shot the ball really well in the preseason, which is something he didn't shoot the ball that well last season. Shot 36.9%, which is good for a big, but you expect Kevin to with how many open shots he had, you expect him to shoot a little bit higher percentage wise. But I'm hoping that he has a bounce back year, has a much higher 3 points. Actually, he shot 34% from three last season. My bad. I was looking at the wrong stat here.
And you know what, Frankie? That number is not great, but that doesn't matter almost because the impact of him as a shooter just helps those units. And
you have to guard him.
He's plus all over the floor. And number, I don't even care.
No, I'm not saying it was.
No, yeah, I know. It was more for the audience, like
right.
Yeah.
Because I know Tiff said unless proven other, and I don't want people to go online and be like, "Excuse me, at Tiffany Meeks 23."
Right.
Yeah, that's Tiff. What's the famous moniker about numbers?
Fuck them.
Yeah, but the thing was, like, sometimes during those dry spells, Kevin does have to knock those down, and that was something that was an issue last season. Even though he did have great numbers, best backup big in the league, until him and Nasri go neck and neck. But he's like, I'm with Tiff and Lou, like, until proven otherwise, until he really shows a deep decline. He's the backup big, and then I go Nico before anyone else.
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Just something real quick on Love. He attempted the most threes per 36 for center. It was him. It was 9. So the percentages weren't good, but the floor spacing effect was still true.
Yeah,
was still true.
You want him taking them.
So and speaking of him, and like people like to say Bam Duncan pairing, and I agree, but the Love Jimmy or the Love Hawkes pairing, how much does he does for those guys in terms of where they like to operate is going to be a key cog. And like Frankie said, if he can just survive on defense, we're looking at if he gives you 85% again of what same shit Duncan, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's funny that I kind of realized that I don't think we spent a second on Bam's defense, because what is there to say?
What's there to talk about? There's nothing to talk about.
Deep boy candidate every year. You know what he's going to bring. Drop, he'll do it. Zone, he'll do it. Switch, he'll do it. Funny omission by us, but I just feel like, we know what that guy provides. It's like, do you need to talk about what Kevin Durant gives your offense? You don't.
I'm more excited about him getting involved more in transition than I am in the 3 points line, but that let's hope that continues.
All right, guys. Tiffany Meeks.
Yes.
Your boy Hamish. Haywood, Hamish, Locksmith, Highsmith. A guy that I wonder kind of his role on the team. He for sure has a role. He's for sure going to play. I'm sure at times he'll spot start. I do think Nico should be the permanent starter this season unless otherwise. But, I mean, there's going to be a lot of matchups where he's important. I think with Nico being such an improved defender, he can actually kind of guard his size for once, which Tiff, I actually think that's really appealing if you're the Heat, to kind of contain some of those faster guards, to contain some of those shooting guards that give him problems. I think that he could, in this new role where he's not asked to extend himself too much, there's kind of a lot he can give them defensively.
I think also for me, I'd like to see him in situations where he's doing more guarding of the 2s and 3s, where he might be out there with I don't know who the other guard would be, but there's more of a Jimmy, Nico, Bam, Haywood, and you throw in at any point Jaime, you throw in Terry, Tyler, whoever else, because I think that's a better position for him. And honestly, what is he going to do? He's going to hustle. He's going to shoot threes. Now we see he's gotten so much better at making cuts to the basket. His passing has gotten better. I think he's just kind of steady. So
Was a
I
good
do
shooter
think,
last year at
yeah,
40%.
yeah. So I think his role is going to change. His role is probably going to change game to game, which is fine because as long as he sees the floor, you know that there's going to be a positive defender out there somewhere besides having Jimmy and Bam. I don't really think that there's a lot to say because I think that we've already seen. I think we've seen more growth than we thought we would see, to be perfectly honest. Like, I know people don't want to admit that, but like, we have to be honest and say, like, from where we saw him day one till now, you, you couldn't ask for more at this point. Like,
Nah,
he's literally
I agree.
done all the things that I'm sure the team wants him to do.
He's 27, so he's not at that age where I think he's a made player at this point. So agree with you, Tiff. Lou,
Expectation for him is I'd like to see him really, really hone in on trying to guard point of attack. I know
agree.
that's not ideally the position you want him in defensively, but with this current roster construction, he's kind of going to be the guy tasked to do that. At least he's their best point of attack defender on a standard contract.
He'll help some
right
of
now.
those smaller guard lineups survive by
Yeah. So just his ability to impact the game there. I'd like to see him just continue to shoot and be willing to shoot threes. I like the last preseason game, he really let it fly, which is, something I'd like to see him continue to do because we know who he is at this point.
Yep.
Agreed. Franky, do you have anything to add on the locksmith?
He looks slimmer to me, so I think that should
Yes.
help. He looks quicker to me and more explosive in transition, running the. So I think that will help him guard down. My hot take is if there is any struggles in the backcourt, I think it'll be Terry first. But if Terry has to come off the bench, I think Haywood slots in real nice, and the very small numbers of that lineup of Haywood, Tyler, Nico, Bam, and Jimmy was a huge plus. It was only like 19 minutes last year, but I like the idea of that lineup.
Real quick, I like it too because it gives you someone that doesn't need the ball.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. Okay, Alec Burks, the newest addition, and I
Who?
believe exactly the only player in this crop that is debuting for the Heat this season. Honestly,
run it back, who?
I'll run it back. Who? Honestly, a guy that I could see having a little bit of a career resurgence. Franky, I think he's, hopefully, last year he was a really dreadful finisher at the rim. First percentile. He's pretty consistently an awful finisher at the rim, but that's not what he's here to do. Can you put up threes? Can you hit them? Can you be a guy that can give you, a couple threes a game on a night in February? Don't think he's going to be in the playoff rotation. Certainly can rehab his way. I mean, you never know. Wayne Ellington had a career year here. James Johnson, Dion Waiters. I think with him, it's kind of like, okay, we got a veteran in here that, has been around the league. He's 32 years old, not totally over the hump, might have a little bit of a second career wind in him. Let's see if we can culture him up. And that's kind of what I think he's going to be. He's going to be here. He's going to innings eat. He's going to help them get through 82. And if he catches fire, then, we may be talking about an interesting playoff rotation with him.
Yeah, this is a guy who's 38% three-point shooter for his career, 80% from the line. So he's been pretty consistently solid as a shooter and proven.
Never have too many shooters.
You can never have. You need a guy to step up, especially with Tyler's injury history and Duncan's back. So you need somebody proven who has something to prove too as well. So he knows the role, he knows the expectations, and he sneaky. Good playoff run for him against the Pacers, 17.8 points per game, 42% from three on 5 attempts a game. Like he can still contribute at times. And, as a guy, a vet who has been around the league, has seen a lot of games and a lot of different situations. Those guys are nice to have. And I'm always a proponent of bringing in some new blood. You don't want things to get stale. We've seen them have issues with that in the past, and I think he provides some shooting that they didn't have on that third string of the depth chart.
Tiff,
Mhm.
Josh Richardson. Speed running the end here of
I don't know.
of these engine men. And really, like, what's there to say about
Right,
a
we
guy
know
like,
who he is.
he's hurt.
He's hurt, so it's kind of and also like he's not going to be ready. So I think that's
Lord
a big
knows when.
deal. Right. So I think that's a big deal. He's not going to be ready, and then by the time he's ready, it's him fighting for a rotation spot.
It helps
So-
spell from himself too.
Right. So at this point, I kind of like I'm hoping he gets back healthy and all the things, but I don't really have too much on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is much. I think we kind of know what he is, and not
Right.
not too much. Hopefully, he can kind of give them a little bit of defense when he gets healthy. Kind of, I mean, you can, again, they're going to need guards. They're going to need innings eaters, and
Right.
they are seemingly pretty healthy right now. So hopefully, he gets healthy at the right time when they need some reinforcements. Lou, Thomas Bryant, our boy. I got to be honest. Hopefully, we don't see a lot of Thomas Bryant. As we said yesterday, this is not a disrespect to Thomas Bryant. I just think that they drafted a young center. Thomas Bryant is, he's a guy that's going to innings eat for them. Has not super worked out here, but
He played 38 games last year.
that's 35 too many, I think. And
Right.
listen, one thing he is he finished 71% at the rim. So, good. Thank you for being tall, my friend. But Lou, I think if he's playing anywhere above 15 games, something went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll start off on a positive note. He tries. He's one of the guys you never question his effort. Now, yeah, his energy is, it's there. I wouldn't say it's good all the time, but it's definitely there. Chaotic is the perfect way to put it. But we know who he is. He's literally defensively, he's a cone. I hate using that word, but that's what he is, unfortunately. But offensively, he's, like you said, he kind of finishes his stall enough.
He was plus last year. I mean, they were.
You know what I don't
plus
want
plus
is his green light that he had in this preseason to let them rip from three. My goodness gracious! Please take that away. Make it a yellow. Make it a flashing red. As a matter of fact, like, he got to stop and then got to look both ways before he goes, because he should not. He's at his best when he's around the rim, so he needs to be diving at will, because that's the only way he's even palatable on the floor.
I mean, Carleon in chat has been screaming about the Thomas Bryant threes forever, so 100% agree. Franky, last but certainly not least, Drusito Smith. Now,
Certainly least, you mean?
I gotta be honest with you. I see Drew Smith playing this year. I think
we all see Drew Smith playing.
I do too.
We all see it, and I gotta be honest with you. I don't totally hate it. Lou is gonna be mad when he's playing over Pell Larson.
I'm not.
Pete Larson.
I came to the realization. I was doing a Heat rotation tweet that I didn't put out because I had Drew Smith as your backup point guard, and I just decided I was going to save myself from the hate. That's all.
Me and Lou were talking about this last time. He's like, yeah, but what if you get lucky and he shoots like 38%? I'm like, Lou, he shot 41% from three last year, and they were awful on offense because they wouldn't guard him. That's the problem. He shot 30% from the field in preseason. He is not a good offensive player. He's potentially their best on-ball guy. I think it's Highsmith. Bon and Lou think it's Drew. I just think Highsmith can switch, and I don't trust Drew on too many switches. So but he's great defensively. Deflections, help at the nail, on the ball. He's tough. Offensively, I would rather have somebody else handling the ball. He needs to knock down the shots. He needs to be a willing shooter. And the willingness to shoot those open shots is a big problem. And his finishing numbers, some of his like little decision making, he gets blocked a lot. He tries to do a little fadeaway on the block, and he gets blocked. He's got blocked like 2 or 3 times on that in the preseason, and he takes like 10 shots. So getting 3 of them blocked is not great. But yeah, he's just a depth piece, depth insurance to fill in and not turn over the ball. Hopefully,
I can totally see them going to Drew early and seeing if he just works as a backup point guard, or if they're just going to go backup point guard list and kind of go Jovic, Duncan, and by committee.
I'd rather let Jaime handle it.
Would you be surprised if Wednesday Drew gets 10 minutes?
No,
No.
absolutely not. I think that's probably
Disgusting.
No.
Chance makes fun of me
A
for putting
quick
lights
quick question. So obviously we know they're 5 starters and they're 4 key bench guys. I'm pretty sure, at least for Wednesday. I'm just talking Wednesday is going to be Jaime, Duncan, Love, Highsmith. If they were to play a 5th guy, do you think it's Drew Smith, or do you think it might be like Alec Burks
Drew
or
Smith. Drew
or
Smith.
Paul
Drew
Larson?
Smith.
Okay, we're on the same page.
They might go 10 deep,
Right. It wouldn't surprise me if Spo decided to go 10 deep on Wednesday.
10 or 11
just to
deep.
get-
I mean,
right, just to get looks.
he might.
I
He
think
might. I think in these first 2 weeks, we're gonna see pretty much everybody that's available, except for maybe Larson, maybe Ware. All the guys that aren't rookies.
You
I know,
take
Lou.
that.
I know this. Spo, and he's gonna
Right.
see what we got. And I think that's the way that's gonna go. And hey, Wednesday against Orlando. Orlando is gonna be a good team this year. Going to be really exciting. I think it's going to be fun to have both these teams competing in the division again, and we're excited to bring you guys coverage on Wednesday. Join us Wednesday night for our Miami Heat post game show, regular season debut. We'll see you there right after the game. The crew got you. We're gonna have a great time, and man, excited to do another season.
Hold
with
on,
my friends.
it's a home game, right?
I don't think so. I think it's
It doesn't matter if it's in Orlando; it's always a home game there too.
No,
yes,
but
it is a
you're-
Miami game.
Okay, so Asia Wilson's gonna be in the crowd. Just put her in instead of Drew. What the fuck are we doing?
Is that?
I mean, are we okay?
yeah, it is a home game.
Can I be honest?
10th.
It's
I take Asia as a 10th player.
10th?
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 I'm starting Asia, honestly.
She's better than Rozier.
Okay, so now we being real honest.
Yeah.
No, we can bench Terry, start Asia next to perfect four. Like Bam can play
Perfect.
power forward
The perfect 4 next to Bam. I've been saying it for years.
for Asia.
We will see you guys Wednesday for the start of Heat season. Heat Magic at Heat. Love you guys. We're so back.
Peace.